Hey there, it's BoardGameDave. Welcome to part 2 of my top 50 board games of all time. Now, of course, we started this list last week with 50 to 41. Today we're talking about numbers 40 through 31. Lots of great games on this list. Now, before we start, I should point out that this video, unlike almost all my other videos, is like pre-recorded. I kind of batched these a few weeks ago because if you're watching this in June or the first half of July, I'm actually in Japan as you're watching this. So if you're watching this as I upload them, I might be at the hot springs in Chikushino right now, or I might be at a Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks baseball game. So just so you know, I am in Japan as you're watching these videos most likely, but that's okay. We've got a lot of great games to talk about. So let's jump right in with my number 40 favorite game of all time. All right, number 40 is a game called Prehistory. Now, it's been many years since I played this game. I think I played it twice way back in 2019 with Gary, but it's got a wonderful theme. I love prehistoric themes. That's maybe my favorite theme in board games, like Stone Age, like Tribes: Dawn of Humanity, but in it, you are a nomadic tribe and you're exploring new lands, and you're gonna do a lot of things kind of like you do in Stone Age, actually. If you look at this main board, you're going to be collecting food, you're going to be going fishing, you're going to be worshiping, you're going to be, there's like a dance part. I'm almost sure that there's dancing in one of these different sections of the board. And of course, like offering up sacrifices and doing some cave painting on your personal board, which is really cool, and hunting for animals and collecting sets. So there's a lot going on. This is actually a very complex game. It's weighted, what? 3.96. So very much on the heavy side, a very long game, but a really satisfying game with a really interesting action cube mechanism, as it says. Where is it? It's down here. Markers in the game have a dual function. If a player is paying for an action, they count as a resource. On the other hand, if played from the special stock each player has in front of them, then the marker color will instead define the action that is carried out. So it's a really interesting thing. It's very abstract. It's not quite as thematic as I want it to be, but it is a really, really good game. There's your fish. There's your food tokens you can collect. That's also a set collection thing if I remember correctly. But again, it's been a really long time. I'd like to see a picture of the game in play because you can see all these cubes that are out there. And I think there's an element of placing cubes out on the board, but also collecting cubes from different action spots. So there's the cubes in front of a player that they have to use. Oh, and then the value of the cubes changes from each round. I think you rotate this clockwise. It's very, very complex and very abstract, but very satisfying as well. You're also, I think, exploring. That's right. There's this whole board that you're going to be exploring and sending your meeples around to collect resources and things. But anyway, not a ton of pictures, it seems like, maybe. But anyways, and then there's the cave paintings you'll be putting on your board. I wish I could talk more about it, but honestly, again, as I rank these games, a lot of these games are from way, way, way back when I first started gaming, and I really liked them. So as much as I don't, especially at that point in my gaming career, I didn't have a lot of games to compare this game to, but it lasted the test of time, at least in my memory, so I'd love to play this again. But that's Prehistory at number 40. Number 39 is actually a game by the same designer, same artist, and same publisher. It's called Ave Roma. Now, it's 2 years older than Prehistory, but again, this is a game that Gary showed me way, way back when I was just getting into gaming, and I really enjoyed this mechanism. The primary hook of this game is that you've got these 5 workers, and each one has a different value, right? 1 through 5. And there are some spots on this action board that want high numbers, and some spots want lower numbers, which is already such a fascinating concept. So low numbers over on this card row give you opportunities to take cards from the whole thing, and then there's like a military section where they maybe want lower numbers or higher numbers. It's very, very, very curious in that way. This is a player board, if I remember correctly, and as you gain resources, you're going to put these discs on the board, and then it's kind of like this weird alchemy where once you complete rows or columns, you get like income and stuff. It's very, very interesting. Not quite as complex as Prehistory. It seems like it's a bit on the not so heavy side, but still 3.74, definitely on the weightier side of things. Let me find some more pictures to show you. Oh, BGG I never have good luck finding good pictures on here, but yes. I'd like to see the main board. I do have pictures from when I played this actually a long time ago, so maybe I'll put some of my own B-roll up there. But anyway, yeah, not a lot of pictures. This and Prehistory seem to be 2 games that kind of got overlooked. You don't hear people talking about Ave Roma or Prehistory very often, but That's a great picture right here. I love that. So yeah, gaining weapons over here, that's some set collection. Over here, you're gonna go to the forum and gain influential nobles, I think, and building buildings over there. And yeah, there's so much going on. You can bid for turn order down here. Let me actually read the little blurb here. It says, it's a worker placement game with unique mechanisms. All workers have a value and all are common workers. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, you don't have your own player workers. You're gonna be, yeah, I think at the beginning of each round, you draft all the workers from different locations. It's really interesting. Yeah, I love it. But yeah, you can build buildings, support wars, convince patrons, obtain influence in territories, get money and resources, so on and so forth. It's been over 4 years probably since I played this game, so I'm sorry I don't have as much info about Ave Roma and prehistory, but check them out. They're really, really good games. All right, now here's a game I can talk much more about. Number 38 is The Red Cathedral by Devere Games. So it came out in 2020, very recent game, 1 to 4 players, not very complex, ages 10 and up. That's very surprising, actually. Community says 12 and up, but it's a small, compact game. Here, let me get this out of the way so I can show you The Red Cathedral. Again, small box, compact game in many ways, actually. Doesn't take up a lot of space, doesn't take a lot of time to play, so, and doesn't take a lot of time to teach either. Primarily, this game is a, well, what is it? A dice manipulation game, I suppose. So you're gonna have a board like so, and dice that are out here on the board. They're not player dice, they're just the community dice, and they're gonna be out, oh, who knows, something like this, right? And basically, on your turn, you're gonna choose, usually, you're gonna choose a die and move it that many spaces. So maybe I take this green one and I move it 1, 2, 3 spaces, and I would take the corresponding resource shown on the token. So maybe I get a purple gem, for example, right? And there's wood and stone and clay and your typical, resources in a Euro game. There's also gonna be assistants or apprentices or whatever at each of these different quadrants, and you can also interact with their special abilities. So you got a whole bunch of them like so. So maybe you've got this lady here, and you could turn 1 coin to build something in the cathedral. Now, the cathedral, the Red Cathedral, is the most important part of this game. The cathedral is going to be made up of these different sections. You've got middle sections and top sections and floor or door sections like so, and you're going to build the cathedral in a pattern sort of like this, depending on the player. It counts lots of different ways to build the cathedral. Anyway, throughout the course of the game, something else you can do on your turn instead of building the cathedral or moving dice around is delivering goods to the cathedral and helping to build the cathedral. And that's how you're gonna get more rubles and you're gonna get prestige points. There's also a really interesting double scoring mechanism in this game. There's reputation and then there's prestige. And prestige are these big numbers out here and reputation are the small numbers in here. It's a really interesting way to do the scoring, but you can also spend prestige to reroll dice or to get coins, kind of mitigate things along the way. So it's a very interesting game. It's very compact. Here's your player board, by the way. So the player board is really handy because it tells you what you can do on your turn, which is moving the dice, delivering and building the construction, or taking these little tiles and upgrading your player board. So on each of these construction tiles, there are these tokens like this, right? And some of them correspond to the different resources in the game, but some of them have these dice icons. So if you want to kind of commit to building a part of the cathedral, you can take this, right? And then for 2 rubles, is that right? Yeah, for 2 rubles, you can put that on any of these spaces. Some of them cost a little bit more, but I could put it here on the red die space. What that means is that in the future, if I move the red die on the main board, not only do I get that benefit there, but wherever the yellow die is, I get that as well. So there's a great engine building mechanism as well. There's a great area majority game. At the end of the game, you're gonna look at each column of the tower, and whoever contributed most to each section of the tower gets the most points. So it's very, very interesting. It works okay at 2 players, I would say. I think I've played at 2-player, but with more players, because it's area majority and stuff, the better. But that's Red Cathedral. Great, tiny little small box Euro game. I really appreciate this tiny game. All right, fantastic. Number 37 on my list is Rise to Nobility. Now, this is a game that's slightly older, 2018, and I played it way back when it probably back in 2019. I might have played it a few times since, but I remember really enjoying the game the first time I played it. So this is a worker placement, was a dice placement game, and you are basically trying to make your town or village or whatever the best it can be to try to attract lots of immigrants to live in your town. And there's going to be elves and dwarves and humans and halflings and all these different cute critters and creatures that are going to come to your town. I will say, as a rule, appreciate the art of the Micho. I can't say that I really love this art style in this game. Like, I don't want to look at these trobits for very long. There's something very like gruesome about it. Honestly, I think that if this game was just reskinned, you know, different style of art, maybe not quite as whimsical as you know, as a theme, I think that it could do really well. But who knows? I feel like it's not talked about a lot is all I'm saying. But anyway, you're gonna roll your dice. If you get a really bad die roll, like if it's under 15 or something, I think you get coins to kind of, you know, mitigate a bad die roll. But essentially, all you're gonna do is put dice out on the board at various spots. So the Carpenter's Guild and the Merchant's Guild, and you can send your dice over here to the ship to do some trading. You can go over here to what's this called? The Stone Council. I think you're gonna like curry favor with the different races, humans and dwarves and elves. There's a castle you can go to. Anyway, all those sorts of things to gain resources and build things on your player board. So you can build houses here to kind of increase the population. Oh, I forgot about this. There's this track right here, which is really interesting. I don't know what number you start on, but as you increase your, I think it's reputation or something, that allows you to use up to that many pips on your dice, which is really fascinating. I forgot all about that. So if my marker is here on number 13, right? If I roll a 6 and a 5 and a 2 and a 4, I can only use up to 13 pips of those 4 dice. It's really curious. I like that a lot. So there's that element there. You can draft different buildings from down here, I believe. And yeah, score tracks over there. One other thing that I really like in Rise to Nobility, but in any game, is that you are going to be building buildings out on the board, right? So these action spaces, I believe, are built by players. And then as people come to your spot, they have to give you, you know, a resource or a coin or something like that. I really enjoyed that. Lords of Waterdeep notably did that a long time ago, but I think Rise to Nobility tackles that really, really well. So build the city of Caveborn by helping settlers secure housing, jobs, and prosperity. Great idea for a game. But yeah, artwork's not my favorite, but it's a really good game. I love dice placement. I'm finding that out as I rank my top 150 games. These dice placement games really went high up on my list. So that's Rise to Nobility. Maybe you haven't heard of it. You should definitely check it out and see what you think. Number 36 is Raiders of the North Sea. This is a game I fell in love with very early into my gaming career, and it's a game that I bought very early on, I believe. It came out in 2015, so it's been around for quite some time, and you may notice that it's always back here in my videos. I love this area of my shelf where I've got my Architects of the West Kingdom as well. But let's go ahead and pop this guy open and take a look at Raiders. So I fit almost everything from the base game and both expansions into this base game box, which is so impressive. It's such a tiny box, and they fit so much game into these tiny boxes. That's just kind of their MO. But anyway, yeah, again, I've got the expansion content and stuff. So I've got the Jarl board here. I've got the Mead Hall, which comes in the Hall of Fame expansion. So it's hard to kind of like rank this game or rate this game without considering the expansions, because I usually play with them. But anyway, you've got a ship in this game, and you are going to be kind of like in Champions of Midgard, recruiting lots of crew members onto your ship. Now, each one has a special player, or not player power, but a different card power, and there's like hundreds of cards in this game. So you could get the Lookout or the Forager, such a strong card, by the way, the Wanderer, the Warmonger, the Marauder, a hero. You can only have one hero on your ship at once. But anyway, you're going to take those crew members and you're going to stick them onto your board. I think these come with the Hall of Heroes expansion, but you put them on your board, and then once you've got plenty of crew and provisions, you are ready to go a raiding, and that's going to happen on the main board here, like so. This is one of those 6-fold, hard to unfold, whoops, boards. I believe in myself. I'm sure I can do it. There it is. Okay, so that's the board. It's kind of a beast, like so. And if it seems kind of empty, that's because you would be putting these oh gosh. Oh no, I know what it is. You'd be putting little booty, right? You'd be putting resources onto the spaces. Each number in that top left corner tells you how many resources to put in those spaces. So that's the plunder you're gonna get by raiding each spot. And if you have the Hall of Heroes expansion, I believe, you're gonna replace them once they're taken over with one of these. That's a quest that you can complete later on. But anyway, the point of the game is to build up your crew, build up your, reputation, your plunder, provisions, right? And that's how you're gonna go out and sail out here and get those resources. So just so you know, this is kind of the crux of the game. It's pretty important. If you're trying to raid, for example, a monastery, right? You need to spend a gold and 3 provisions and have at least 3 crew members, right? And then you're gonna look for your strength. So strength is your crew, right? Each card has a strength on it, plus your armor track down here. That's the red track. That's gonna provide more strength, plus you're going to roll your red dice to add more strength. And then you're going to try to hit these thresholds. If you hit 12 to 19, you get 4 points, 20 or more, you get 6 points. So that's the bulk of the way you're going to move around that point scoring track. Now, beyond that, right, if you're not raiding, you're probably back here in the village building up your resources, right? So you might be going to the armory to move up your armor track, or going to the gatehouse to draw more cards into your hand, or going to the barracks to recruit these cards. They have a cost right here in silver, so you might go to the silver to get the cash first. The longhouse gives you provisions or lets you offer an offering to the chieftain, and the mill is really important because that's where you get provisions. So there's a lot to do. I love the worker placement area down here, and then raiding out there. There's kind of 2 different phases to the game. Oh, and a very brilliant part of this game, this is what makes this game I think so unique, is instead of a normal worker placement game where you drop a worker and you do the thing, on your turn, you're going to drop one worker and then pick up another worker. And the workers are shared, right? So somebody might put a very, very valuable white worker on a certain spot, right? On my turn, I can place a black worker on the gatehouse, draw 2 cards, and then pull that white worker and do a very strong ability. So I love that. Raiders of the North Sea, such a good game. I love Viking games, again, as I've already said in this series. So Raiders of the North Sea is a great game for me. Number 35 is Robinson Crusoe Adventures on the Cursed Island. This is a very heavy game. It's 3.81 out of 5. It's a fairly long game. I've mostly played this game solo, although Hannah and I have played the first campaign a few times, maybe 3 times, and we've struggled to beat it, which kind of keeps us coming back. But I love this game. There's a couple reasons why, so let me go ahead and get this game out for you. So this is kind of a survival game, and I love it. It's super thematic, it's super intuitive. You just need to, in the first chapter, first scenario, you just need to survive long enough to build a big bonfire to try to attract the attention of these ships. Now, I'll tell you, I've only ever played the first scenario, and there's, oh gosh, what, 7? Let's see, 6? There's 7 in this game, and somehow I've just been perfectly content playing the first game, first scenario, which is kind of like my favorite theme, besides prehistory stuff, is probably survival. So you're on this island and you're crafting tools and you're building fire and you're learning how to make rope and, gathering food and building up your shelter. I really, really enjoy that theme in general. So I really like that first castaway scenario. Then there's the Cursed Island where you have to we have to make stakes, like crosses and stuff to defeat the curse or whatever. And then Jenny needs rescuing, and there's a volcano island. So yeah, there's all kinds of Cannibal Island, Family Robinson, the King Kong you have to defeat. So there's a lot going on. I just like the first scenario, but without getting too much in the weeds, you've got this giant board out here like so, and this is going to be populated with terrain tiles, which are mostly going to be flipped over, and then you have to kind of go out and explore them to flip them over and see what kind of resources you can get. Beyond that, there's monsters down here. There's a whole deck of cards for each kind of action: building, foraging, exploring, that have random things that will happen to you. Let's see, here's the phases of each round, and then here's your shelter. So you might go there to work on your shelter, to work on the roof, to build the palisades, and then your weapon track is there as well, because you're going to need weapons to fight off mainly like monsters. So there's so much in this box. There's dice for the weather, for whether you're going to succeed in building and exploring and stuff, things that you might find, terrain tiles, first player marker. I've got this great handy organizer for a lot of those tokens. This might be like your current status, wounds, food tokens, stuff like that. Each scenario has its own little board like this that tells you the rules of the scenario and gives you a tracker and things like that. And then the cards, like I said, each one is going to do something random. So let's say I'm out here and I'm trying to build spikes around the shelter, right? I might flip this card and now I've got a nasty wound. So I put a wound on my character's arm, and if I don't address whatever this thing is, I could get infected, right? And a lot of these have an immediate effect and then something that you need to do to basically deal with that event. And if you don't, something worse happens. So I love that that element in the game. And each round you're going to flip a new event, which I think are these. So anyway, it's been a while, and the rulebook, oh my gosh, is notoriously bad. I mean, every time I play this game, if it's been a while, I've got to re-familiarize myself with the rulebook, which is not something I look forward to. Probably one of the reasons this game doesn't get played that much. It's not a good rulebook, but it's worth it. It's worth it if you really feel like you'd enjoy this kind of game. I know that I do, so I'll have to relearn it and get it played again. I wonder if Gary and Connor would like to play this sometime for a game night. I will pitch it to them and see what they think. But there you go, number 30. I don't know what was that. What was I at? Number 35, Robinson Crusoe. Okay, number 34 is Architects of the West Kingdom. So we're going back to the shelf over there. Let's see, 1 to 5 players. That's a great player count. Ages 12 and up. Fairly simple game, not too complex, not too long. This is another Garfield game, and I really, really enjoy this one. I wonder if I can pull this off without knocking things over like so. Okay, I've actually been playing this game on Board Game Arena. I don't think I knew it was on there for a while, but it's really good on BGA, and it makes me want to get this game back out. I think that I hold this game in higher regard ever since playing it on Board Game Arena, because I think I had sort of forgotten some of the charm and what makes this game so unique and why I loved this game in the first place. So it's a worker placement game at the end of the day. And I remember explaining to Hannah that when she, when we fell in love with Stone Age together, she was like, oh, I really like worker placement games. I think that's my favorite mechanism. And I was like, oh, you gotta try Architects of the West Kingdom. I was raving about it. And I told her, I was like, if you like Stone Age, you're gonna love Architects of the West Kingdom. She thought it was okay. And I think part of it is you need more players. It says it's best at 4 players. So 2 players, you're not getting a lot of the dynamic. And there is a lot of dynamism. I don't know what the word is, but in this game, because, well, first of all, there's a couple things that make this game really cool. First, you're going to put workers out on these spots and gain resources, but the more workers you put in a lot of these spots, the more you get, which is really interesting because you only put 1 worker out per turn. So my first turn, I put a worker out there, I get 2 coins, right? 1 + 1 per meeple. Second turn, I go back out there, I put a second one down, and I've got 3, right? And there's lots of spaces that work that same way. The catch is, or one of the catches is, other players can arrest your workers, which is such a cool part of the game. Do I have some player boards in here? Yeah, so each player board has a spot for enemy meeples. So if I see that Hannah's got 4 meeples in the silversmith, that's not good, right? I might put a worker down here to the town center, pay a coin to the tax to arrest those meeples, and I take them and put them on my board. Later, I could send those meeples to the guardhouse and get 1 coin per meeple that I put in jail, and then she'd have to come all the way to the jail to get them out, right? So there's a really interesting mean element of capturing each other's workers. Something else that's really interesting is the way that the money works. When you spend money, it doesn't always go back to the supply. Sometimes it goes to the supply if it's a coin colored space, but if it's red, it goes to the tax stand over here, and you can go raid the tax stand, steal from the tax stand to go down to reputation, which brings me to my next favorite part about this game, this whole virtue track, or the reputation, I just called it, right? This is so interesting, and I just talked about it in my 10 more games on BGA that I like playing. This is where I just talked about this game recently. If you go too far down the reputation track, you can't help with the cathedral, which is a big way to get points and resources and virtue, right? But you are able to skimp on some of your taxes, which is really nice. If you're doing, you know, actions that cost taxes, you can skip the tax by being really low on the virtue track. But on the other hand, if you go super high on the virtue track, that gives you lots of points and it can erase some debts if you get way up here, but you can't go to the black market anymore, which is down here. A very quick, skeezy way to get lots of resources. So it's so great. There's so many unique elements that make this game stand out from a sea of worker placement games, and I really enjoy Architects, although, again, probably best at a higher player count. Number 33 is Lewis and Clark: The Expedition. This is a game that I love playing but never get to play. And actually, speaking of, I mentioned this in last week's video, the first video ever on my channel was 5 games I'm getting rid of this year. That was in 2021, and Lewis and Clark was on that list. I still have it actually, so let me get it out. This is a fairly heavy game, and it's got some problems, which, you know, it's just a hard sell to new gamers or like anybody who would be playing this game. But the basic premise of this game is you are Lewis and Clark, and you are traveling from, oh gosh, where are we going from? Oh, I used to know this. You're going down the river and you're trying to get to Fort Clatsop. I remember that. So, from St. Louis, here we go. Let's just look at the board. You're going from St. Louis down here in the southeast, and you're trying to get to Fort Clatsop up here. And it's just a racing game. Essentially, that's all it is. So each turn, you're going to try to get your boat to move further and further along this track all the way to Fort Clatsop. And it's been so long. If I remember correctly, I think whoever gets there first wins. Like, that's literally all there is, right? Right? I think so. I should know that. It's been a while. But anyway, that's the objective, is to get to the end. To be honest, I've actually only ever played this solo in real life. I've played it on Board Game Arena twice, I think, with other players, and I enjoyed it there. BGA helps to kind of streamline some of the things, but here's the couple things that make this game a hard sell for new players. One is it's a long teach, there's a lot to do. But two, I think the biggest thing is this is quite literally a 2 steps forward, 1 step back game. That's just the way it is. It's a little hard to explain why that is. Oh, my cards have gotten all shuffled around here. But basically, the way this works is you've got your own player board here, right? And you've got your boats, and you've got you can get some other boats as well, right? And you're gonna load your boat up with resources, and you need those resources to, for example, build more canoes, or get bison or furs, or, you know, recruit new people to go on your ship. So there's all of these. By the way, there's a lot of card play in this game. It's kind of like a hand management game where you can use your cards to it's hard to remember, to activate these abilities, right? Or you can use the strength up here to bolster your worker placement. So you've got these little Native American meeples that you can put out on action spots, but you can bolster them with these numbers up here. And there's strength 2 and strength 3, you know, cards out there, and they'll be cycling down this card row, and you spend those costs in provisions and furs to recruit them into your hand. Anyway, so there's that whole element of the game too. But more importantly, more back to the point is, because you've got resources on your ship, right? Every few turns, there's going to be this like end of round phase thing that you do, this resolution thing, and you're going to be moving up the river, but at that part of the phase, you're going to look at the number of resources on your boats, right? And if you have full boats or just resources on boats like this, right, that's what that icon is, you're going to go back that many spaces. And that can be really, really frustrating. You literally could end up further back than when you started. So I think the psychology of that, honestly, is what's, you know, is a hard sell again, like I keep saying. I haven't been keen to teach this to other players, even though I think there might be, you know, friends that I know that will really enjoy the game, but it just isn't super satisfying. And on top of that, when you get to the mountain spaces, you need to have cards that can like deal with the mountain spaces. Specifically, I think horses down here let you kind of move through the mountains. And if you just have bad luck or your cards aren't coming out the right way, you're just going to get stuck here at the beginning of the mountain spaces, and it's hard to get through that. Then you get back to the river, then you need canoes, then there's another mountain, you know, area range where you need horses to get through to get to Fort Clatsop. So, whew, it's a beast. Solo, it's not so bad because you're just playing against yourself, but imagine a 4-player game of this. Oh, I don't know how that would go. So, anyway, that's Lewis and Clark. So I didn't, you know, it's not like I didn't try to sell this game at the auction. I did, and nobody took it. So I still have it, and I'm remiss to get rid of it because I know it's an amazing game. But yeah, they do, by the way, have a second edition out, and they made some changes. And there's like a sticker pack or like a revision pack where you can put stickers on the board to change it. I think they did actually try to streamline it a bit more. So maybe I just need to get that, convert this basically to the second edition, and then maybe I'd feel better about teaching it to people. So anyway, that's Lewis and Clark. Number 32 is Merchants of the Dark Road. This is a game that I talked about, I think in my like top 10 new to me games of 2022, I think is what that video was. So I talked about it more in detail there, but great art by Andrew Bosley. Oh my goodness. Yes. Look at this board. It's gorgeous. Very dark, kind of very, oh gosh, what's the word? Kind of foreboding color scheme and stuff, especially over here when you're going down the dark road. But in this game, it's sort of like a, kind of like a rondel game. So you're going to have your wagon like so, right? And you're going to load it up with all kinds of goods. So you'll notice that this player has a breastplate and this person has a wand. And you're going to collect those resources here at the market or whatever, the Great Bazaar, right? And then you see these little wagon meeples. You're going to rotate them clockwise each turn. You're going to go around the board and do different things. You might get some commissions from the Queen, or you might come down here to the Oracle of Lumi to do something, or go to the dark market, right? Or pick up some people at the Ringway Inn. And this is really, really fun. You can pick up passengers or that are looking for certain things, and then they're trying to get somewhere. So you can pick them up and drop them off at different parts of the map, I believe. And that's the general gist. So there's this polyomino part of the game where you're trying to stack lots of goods on your board. And then there's also this kind of push your luck thing where when you go to travel to the dark road, you can, and I'm not going to remember the details very specifically, but as you travel, if it's your turn, you can basically invite other people to come along on that travel with you. Maybe they have a place they need to get to, maybe they have some goods they want to deliver, something like that. So you're going to go through the dark road together, and there's like a risky way to go, and then there's a safe way to go. And I think if you take the riskier way, there's more lucrative benefits you can get. So all the players that went with you on the journey get to kind of draft those benefits that you get. I'm not explaining it very well, I'm sure. There's also lanterns. Oh, and on your turn, there's this whole, I forgot about this. The way that you choose like how far to go on each space, this is not very good. And like what you're going to activate, I believe, is with these dice. They have to kind of slide down and off of your board. I don't remember the specifics, but that's another part of the game. It's like the beginning of your turn, you have to move those dice around. Oh yeah, and I forgot you can get pets basically that give you special abilities and helpers and things. Yes, I only played it maybe twice, but I remember it being really, really good. Oh, and it's got that really cool scoring mechanism where there's two different things that you're scoring. Whichever one's highest, I think, is what scores at the end of the game, which I always find fairly interesting. So yeah, it's got contracts, dice rolling, end game bonuses, a follow mechanism, hidden victory points, highest, lowest scoring, market, pick up and deliver, rondel, set collection, worker placement. There's a lot of good stuff in that game, but that's Merchants of the Dark Road. And my last game for today, number 31, is I believe the only Stefan Feld game I've ever played. It's the Castles of Burgundy, specifically 2nd edition. Now, this game came out originally in 2011. It's a very old game, and then Aaliyah came out with this 20th anniversary edition, so that's the one I have. It is such a highly ranked game. It is sitting at, oh gosh, I don't know where it is on BGG. It's really, really high. It's one of those classic high praise games, but here it is, the Castles of Burgundy. Now, I have issues with the design, choices in this game. That's okay. Castle of Burgundy seems to always be wrought with design questionable choices, but that's all right. I've also been playing this game a lot on BGA. I just brought this game up in that BGA video I made a few weeks ago, so you can hear me talk about it some more over there. But essentially, this is a tile placement game. That's all it is. So you've got your own duchy or princedom, it says over there. But you're going to be drafting tiles and putting them on your duchy. And that's it. You're trying to get the most points. And you're going to be doing that with dice. So each turn, you're going to roll 2 dice, like so. 2 dice. So I got a 3 and a 1. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, using your dice, you can get workers, which are going to help you mitigate die rolls. You can sell some goods, which are these square things like this. Throughout the course of the game, you might get jewelry or grapes or pottery. So you might be able to sell those goods with the corresponding die values. And then you might be able to draft some tiles from the main board. So you've got this beautiful board like so, right? And each one of these hexagonal spaces is going to have a certain tile. It might be a castle or a boat or a farm tile or a building or a mine or something like that, right? So with my 3 and my 1, I could take a tile from 3 and I could take a tile from 1, for example, right? Or alternatively, I could take a tile from 3 and then place it onto a 1 on my board. That would work as well, right? As you take tiles, they're going to go in this storage space, and then from there, they go on the board. Now, of course, there's placement restrictions and rules, but that's the basic gist of the game. As you complete certain terrain areas, like if I get all 5 of these building spaces completed, I get lots of points. Now, those points are determined by what round you're in and stuff like that. So a little bit complicated. That should be on the player aid right here. So that's where that is. All the actions that you can do on your turn is listed right there. You can also spend 2 coins at one time per turn to get a tile from the black market in the center of the board. So anyways, kind of handy they got this player reference here because each building does something different. And I've got little baggies from BGG for all the different tiles. I love using these. Actually speeds up the game a lot. So anyway, it's a tile placement game. I love it. It's very, very well designed. And like I said, I've been playing on BGG. I think that's probably why this game ended up so high on my ranking this year. You know, it's not the most exciting or you know, visually stimulating game, but it's very, very clever. And I think playing it on BGG made me remember how much I like that game. So there it is, Castle of Burgundy, a great game you should definitely check out. And there you go. That was part 2 of my top 50 board games of all time. Of course, come back next week. I'll be talking about my numbers 30 through 21. You don't want to miss that. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you do that down there. And while you're down there, of course, don't be afraid to leave me a comment. I respond to every comment down there, guys. So please let me know what you thought about the video. Have you heard of Ave, Roma, or Prehistory? Are those games that are on your radar at all, or have you never heard of them? What do you think about Lewis and Clark? Does it sound like a game you'd want to play, or do I need to just get rid of it and I'm being delusional for thinking somebody would want to play a game like that with me? Or maybe you have the new deluxe edition of Castles of Burgundy. You can tell me all about it and how beautiful and amazing it is and how this is garbage compared to your extremely deluxeified version. Let me know anything you want to in the comments down below. And in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care and happy gaming. Bye.